All right, now that you've looked over the bell ringer for today, which goes over the Pythagorean theorem, which we've been reviewing the past few days, we had a question up there that showed the hypotenuse of a triangle, which was 7. One of the legs was 4, and we needed to figure out what the third leg was. And by using the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we could say a would be 4, so 4 squared is 16, plus b squared, which is the one we don't know, equals 7 squared, or c squared, which is 49. To solve for b squared, we take the 49, subtract the 16, we got 33. We took the square root of 33, and we got the answer to be 5.7. This is one of our basic building blocks of trigonometry, and we'll use it as we move forward because it's set up so that we can help work with right triangles. So today, what we're learning is we get into the ratios. So the first ratio we're going to learn is sine. Sine is the same as opposite over hypotenuse. In the equations of sine, what you'll end up having to solve for one of three things. You'll solve for an angle, a side opposite the angle, that given angle, or the hypotenuse. Since sine is opposite over hypotenuse, it is just that number, the smaller side, the side opposite an acute angle, because remember, or one of the acute angles of the triangle, because remember we're working with right triangles, so since one of the angles is 90 degrees, the other two have to be acute angles, or less than 90. So it'll be a side opposite one of the acute angles divided by the hypotenuse. And this measure is always going to be less than 1. Sine should always be should always be more than 0, less than 1. Because that's a ratio. If you ever get an answer that's more than 1, something's wrong. And the way it works is every angle has its own sine number. And it just depends on the ratio of the opposite to the hypotenuse. So we're going to look at our first problem. We have a first problem that looks similar to this, which it's hard to see, but you see an angle inside of triangle is 50. Across from the 50 is an x, and the hypotenuse, which is the long side, is 10. So now we need to know how to solve that. So to solve that, what you'll do is you'll pick up your graphing calculator, or in my case, my phone, which has a graphing calculator, and you'll say, okay, we know the angle was 50. We don't know x, which was the side opposite, but we know 10. It's the hypotenuse. So when you have something like that, you'll write it out as a note that looks something similar to this. Sine 50 equals x over 10. That is backwards, I'm sorry, but sine of 50 is x over 10. Then what we would do is we would cross multiply. So we would have 10 times the sine of 50 equals x. X representing, again, x represents the side opposite the 50-degree angle. So what we'll do now is we'll go to our graphing calculator, our TI-84. And if you see, there's a button on there that shows that's SIN. So what you will do is you'll put 10, which you had up there, times the sine, which is represented as SIN, of 50. It'll have an open parentheses. You'll type in the 50, you'll do a close parentheses, enter, and you get the side is 7.6604. That we're just going to round to the nearest tenth to say 7.7. And that would be the answer to that question. Now, what if you have a similar question where you have the side, but you have a side and not the hypotenuse? So we're going to take the 50, the angle of 50, we're going to put it opposite the 10. So the 10 is now the opposite side, and we need to know the hypotenuse. So what we're going to do in that situation is, again, we're going to write up our equation. This time it's going to look the same. It's sine 50 equals, this time we have the opposite side. So we're going to write the 10 on the top, and we're going to do our x on the bottom, similar to this, because again, we do not know what the hypotenuse is. We're going to cross multiply, so we get x sine of 50 equals 10. It looks like that. Now we have to divide so we can solve for x, because x is what we're looking for, which is the length of the hypotenuse. So we divide both sides by the sine of 50, so we can eliminate it on one side. You see, we eliminate it on one side. So now we just have x equals 10 divided by the sine of 50, which we go into our graphing calculators again. This time we'll write 10 divided by the sine, gives you the SIN, you have the parentheses, type in 50, close parentheses, equals, and we get 13.1 or 13.05, which we round up because we're doing to the nearest tenth. Now, the next question would be, what if you were given two sides and not the angle? Well, you can do that. It's just something called inverse sine. You're going to use a different number on your calculator, but it's very straightforward. So say we're now going to have a triangle. Let's sing along the lines of this. All right, triangle 10, 14, and 10. So now we have a triangle that has an opposite. We want to find this angle right here. So we're going to put a little X right there. That's the angle we want to find. Now it is opposite the 10. So you see it's opposite. And hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse. So what we're going to do is, instead of hitting the sine key, which we've been doing, we're going to press second, and over the SIN, which is right there, you'll see it SIN and then -1. So you'll press that. What that does is it tells us, okay, we're looking for an angle instead of a sine number. We're looking actually for the angle because it's going for an inverse sine. So then we go, okay, it was 10 because the opposite side was 10, divided by 14. And you can just plug your numbers straight in. You don't have to find out what 10 divided by 14 is ahead of time. And then you get the angle of 45.6. That's your angle. So now we know this angle here is 45.6. And if you want to check that work, you're going kind of reverse of it. We'll see that. Sorry about that. We'll see that 10 divided by 14. We'll go here. Go. Ten divided by 14 is 5/7. And if you do the sine of 50, it is also going to be 5/7. This gives us in fractions, I'm not sure, but you'll get the same answer. So now, what we're going to do is I want to hand out some questions to everyone. I'm going to say these out loud so that you all can write these down and follow along. The first question is we're going to have a side opposite of 8, a hypotenuse of 13, and we want to know the angle that faces the 8. Our second question, we're going to have an angle of 24, a side of 5, and we want to know the hypotenuse. The third triangle, what we're going to do, we're doing kind of the same things that we have been doing. We're going to have a hypotenuse of 19, an angle of 63, and we want to find the side opposite the angle. Okay, now I'm going to go through the steps of how you're going to solve all these. This is what we've been talking about, but I'm going to go through the steps again, and then we can enter in our calculators, and we'll figure out the answers. Okay, the first one that had a side opposite the angle of 8 and the hypotenuse of 13, that is going to be an 8, because it's opposite over hypotenuse, so 8 over 13. And then we're going to plug that into our calculators and do the sine of -1, or sine -1, the second, and then the key second, press your sine key, and then do 8/13, basically 8 divided by 13, and then I'll give you your answer. And that'll give you an answer, that'll give you an answer of 38 degrees. Next, we have our triangle that has a 24 degrees, so it's sine of 24 equals 5 over x. So what that does is it's telling us now that we need to cross multiply and divide, like we did earlier. We're going to go through on your calculator. Okay, you press 5, divide by, and sine 24. And the answer you should get is the hypotenuse equals 12.3. Because we took the 5, we divided it by the sine of 24. The last question is the hypotenuse was 19, degree of 63, and an opposite side, we need to find that. What you can just do is, again, we're going to cross multiply, and we'll say 19 times the sine of 63 equals x, and x then equals, as you round it, is 17. From here, so now we understand the basics of sine, how to use sine on your calculator, using inverse sine. We'll assign some homework regarding this. Again, it's just ratios, figuring out opposite side, hypotenuse, and the angle that you want to find, and which keys you have to use, where you have to cross multiply, divide, that sort of things. And starting tomorrow, we'll be working on cosine, which is another variant of a trigonometric identity, like sine is, and then we'll work on tangent, which is another type of trigonometric identities, all designed to help you with ratios and finding the angles and the sides of triangles. This is an intro to trigonometry. From here, there's a lot more stuff, but thank you and have a great day, class. Bye.